Hi, I'm Coose, and I've been working on designing an eco-house on the Eastern Shore. The purpose of this home is to provide a sustainable living environment that fulfills all the expectations of modern living, yet has a minimal impact on the environment. So, why the Eastern Shore? Well, for starters, it's an area rich in history and wildlife. You can't really beat the scenery, between the private serene beaches and majestic marshlands and roaming wild horses. Local businesses such as fishing, manufacturing, and tourism thrive and promote a healthy economy. And, of course, all the water surrounding the peninsula provides ample recreational opportunities, things like fishing, boating, paddleboarding, going to the beach, and so on. To top it all off, an eco-house would be welcome in the Eastern Shore region due to a pre-existing consciousness of sustainable living due to the area's proximity to the Chesapeake Bay. The Save the Bay campaign, for example, is pretty big there, and that encourages conservation and protection of the environment, so the idea of a reduced eco-footprint isn't a foreign idea. In addition, the air quality is good, the climate is capable of supporting renewable energy sources, and there is access to sustainable building materials, all of which I will discuss more in depth during this presentation. So here are some screenshots of the Eastern Shore and Virginia throughout the year. So here are some screenshots throughout the year, and there's one from November in the fall, February in the winter, and this month, May. And it gives you a good idea of what the air quality is like year-round. And as you can see, it's mostly green with the exception of a little yellow patch in February, and the key at the bottom will tell you that that is very good. It means ozone levels are low and there are no health hazards present. So here's an infographic that discusses the three main types of renewable energy available to this eco-house, and that's wind, solar, and biofuel. So wind energy is really on the rise in this region with a project led by Dominion Virginia Power plants, and they plan to erect two 6-megawatt turbines 24 miles offshore, which is projected to be able to power about 3,000 homes by this year, 2017. And the ultimate goal is to build up to 200 turbines with the capacity to power over 7,000 homes by 2020, and our eco-house could be one of those pioneering homes. Solar energy is also very accessible in the region, so recently Amazon has partnered with Dominion Virginia Power to construct an 80-megawatt solar facility in Accomack County, Eastern Shore, which would make it the largest solar farm in the entire East Atlantic region. And that would be expected to generate about 170,000 megawatt hours of energy annually, which is enough to power 15,000 US homes. And the same partnership plans to build a 400 megawatt facility by 2020. And homeowners can also install their own solar energy systems on their homes, and there are a lot of incentives, and that's highly encouraged in this region. So that is what our eco-house is going to do. As far as biomass energy goes, the US Navy and Air Force have pledged to have half of their fuel be biofuel by 2016 and 2020 respectively, and that's really big for the Eastern Shore because there's a strong military presence in the area. And also ODU, which is a local college, has created Virginia's first algal farm experiment in biofuel production, and all of these factors are very promising for a future in renewable energy, and the growing local presence makes sustainable energy resources much more accessible for this eco-home. So even though the initial cost of getting renewable energy programs up and running is expensive, it ends up paying for itself in the long run, and it has proved to be an economically and environmentally viable alternative to current energy sources, which we are currently depleting and polluting the environment with. So in order to sustain these wind turbines, a given area must experience consistent winds of above 13 kilometers per hour. So I actually recorded the wind speed where I live in Virginia Beach several times a day for a week or two with a makeshift anemometer, and to make this I took a ping pong ball attached to a string on a protractor, and there's a little illustration of that on the right, and the angle at which the ping pong ball blew corresponded with the wind speed, and I recorded all of those, and the average came out to be 14.8, so that told me that my area could support wind energy. And relatively speaking, I don't live too far from the Eastern Shore, but I did look up monthly wind speeds for the Eastern Shore, and averaged all of those together, and I got 14.25 kilometers per hour. So with the exception of August, all the monthly averages were above 13, so wind energy would be a viable option for this eco-house in the Eastern Shore. So obviously there are a lot of materials that go into making a house, and I can't discuss them all in depth here. So I'm going to talk about some sustainable alternatives to some commonly used building materials that this eco-house would utilize and discuss. And I'm going to discuss the impact of a few main ones. So concrete is cheap but requires fossil fuel to create and is impervious, so it creates runoff, and it may be able to be replaced by new technology that captures carbon from power plant smokestacks and uses it to create a new building material fabricated with 3D printers, which is pretty cool because it takes carbon that would have gone into the environment and turns it into something usable, which is better and more eco-friendly than concrete itself. So that's technology that's being developed, and hopefully by the time we build this house, if we build it, that would be available. Lumber, traditional wood sources can be replaced with engineered lumber from sustainable forests, which are basically well-regulated forests run by companies who care about maintaining the natural balance of forests and preserving biological and ecological diversity. Most shingles today are generally made of asphalt because it's the cheapest, but asphalt is petroleum-based and it requires a lot of energy to produce, and it decomposes slowly in landfills and causes leaching. So other materials like wood, metal, clay, rubber, and recycled shingles can replace asphalt. But I've designed this eco house to have a green roof, which is a roof covered with grass and vegetation. And this has a variety of benefits, some of which include reducing stormwater runoff, conserving energy, mitigating urban heat island, reducing noise and air pollution, sequestering carbon, and providing habitats for animals. So traditional insulation contains toxic materials such as hydrofluorocarbons and extruded polystyrene, which can cause problems over time if it leaks out. And however, cellulose insulation is the best alternative, and it's considered by CIMA as one of the most environmentally friendly building products in the world, and it's made essentially from recycled paper that would otherwise have ended up in landfills, and it's a very effective insulator to trap all that heat in so we don't use as much energy heating or cooling the house. Wall panel systems such as torso surfaces are made from recycled wood and agricultural byproducts, and they have no urea formaldehyde, and they emit no VOCs and are composed of all natural materials and are LEED certified. Mining of resources for tile floors and the energy used to make them can destroy habitats and harm the environment. Tiles made from recycled or reclaimed materials not only keep waste out of landfills by repurposing it, but they also act as good insulators. And finally, magnetic induction cooktops and large capacity dishwashers and washing machines with EcoCycle and heat control options are all eco-friendly improvements to traditional appliances. Also, composting toilets use the natural processes of decomposition and evaporation to recycle human waste and turn it into soil using little to no water. So here's a diagram that lays out all the materials just discussed and a few more that are incorporated into the design of the eco house. And it also includes all of the raw materials and processes necessary before it can be used as it's in its final state in a home. And as you can see, manufacturing, transportation, and installation applies to nearly everyone, but the environmental impacts of using these sustainable materials is definitely minimized compared to traditional supplies. So now that we've gone through some of the major components that make up the house, let's take a look at the design itself. So as you can see, there are solar panels as the primary source of energy for the home, but that can be backed up by wind or biofuel energy. Notice all the components from the previous slide, the cellulose insulation, sustainable wood, green roof, rain barrels, zero VOC paint. The house is slightly elevated from sea level just to prevent flooding because it is going to be there near the water. And there are a lot of factors that will help control the temperature of the house passively without using energy. So, for example, it's facing south with large double pane glass windows and doors, and in the northern hemisphere, the southern orientation will allow the house to receive more direct rays from the sun in the winter, so that will help heat the house passively. And in the summer, the overhang of the roof blocks sunlight from entering, which will help to cool the house. The double pane window and cellulose insulation help to keep the house at a steady temperature. And because the house will be located near the water, the land and sea breezes that happen naturally will help keep the area cooler in the summer and warmer in the winter. So that is the Eastern Shore Eco House I've designed. I hope you consider this design is located in a great area and has the perfect combination of elements that will not only reduce this house's eco footprint, but set a standard for sustainable living for the entire region, which is extremely important considering that the Eastern Shore is directly next to the East Coast's biggest estuary ecosystem, which is the Chesapeake Bay. And if you have any more questions, or would like to look into other eco house designs around the world, or want to know more about sustainable living inside of the eco house, take a look at the websites below. Thank you.